All right, guys, welcome back to another part in this podcast series, this Total War podcast that I started a couple months ago. Today, I've got a new guest, a fellow Total War creator on YouTube. Thomas, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. And we're gonna talk about all things Total War, the games,
Mm,
the mods, the videos that we've made, the channels we're building, and the state of the franchise, what we like of the future, just the usual kind
mm.
of chats that we like having as Total War players and enjoyers. So yeah, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on for starters. I'm relatively new to the sphere, but not necessarily to Total War. I started my channel about a year ago. My wife just encouraged me to upload some gameplay because I like to do that, and I thought, well, that's fun. And then I uh, was uploading some Sniper Elite. I don't know if you played Sniper Elite before, but
I have,
it
yeah,
kind of got
yeah.
like a thousand views. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I uploaded a Total War video, and I got 1,000 views. Like, oh, that's cool. And I've just been uploading 1 or 2 a month since then, and as much as I can. But
Yeah.
no, I've really been enjoying it, and I'm sort of just learning the community. I've been playing Total War for over 10 years, but been watching everyone since Prince of Macedon from Heir of Carthage. That's what I grew up with
Hmm.
when I was a kid, and I was watching those guys. And so making my own content now is actually really exciting because I get to sort of explore what they did and what they still do
Yeah.
in that area. So yeah, I'm really super excited for this journey. I have no idea where it's going.
Yeah, I totally know how you feel, and where you're at. That was, yeah, my first year of creating videos and starting the channel was a lot like that as well. Like just throwing yourself in the deep end and seeing what happens. But
Mhm.
it's quite
Yeah,
cool and
absolutely.
exciting. Um,
Yeah.
uh, Sorry, I was just gonna say you said something there that was quite interesting. Like Prince of Macedon
Mhm.
and Heir of Carthage and Spartacus and officially
Mm.
Devon. Like there's so many good channels that that are inspirational, that are so cool to do
Yes.
and watch, and taking it yourself and trying it yourself is awesome. It's brave. So well done.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. It's just a stab in the dark sometimes as to what works and what doesn't work. But I think it's important that a lot of these guys are still going and still making content after 10 years, and that's an inspiration in itself, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
I'm not sure I'm
definitely.
going to be doing it in 10 years, but you never know. But
Yep.
I mean, I think, let's just take Carthage, for example. I'm not sure if he's uploaded recently, but I was watching his original Rome Carthage campaign
Hmm.
he put out recently, which I thought was a really cool series. But I mean, one of my favorite series that he did was Empire Total War, playing as Poland Lithuania,
Okay.
and he sort of created this character called Patchy, and I remember watching that as a kid, having my hair cut. So that was like a cool memory for me. So now doing that for
Right.
as a hobby is kind of like, oh, it's really exciting. I get to kind of relive those memories and relive those experiences all over again.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, some of these guys have been around for decades, and they still upload. And I could name more people like Lionheart and people like that who have been
Yeah.
uploading and uploading. And they're
Yeah.
super
Hundred
cool
percent.
guys. I love watching all their content. So
Yeah, me too.
yeah.
Definitely. I mean, Lionheart, in the same way, Lionheart was a little bit for me. I mean, when I first started the channel, it was just some series of videos of games and mods that I would play, and I just kind of, narrative a little bit and have fun with it and focus on characters or specific events and just like kind of in his style. It was you kind of mimicking it because you love it and
Yeah,
you love what
exactly.
they
Yeah,
do,
exactly.
and yeah, I totally get what you mean.
Mm.
And you've been like pretty successful as well. I mean, you've got some. I've been watching some of your videos as well. Some of them are in the tens of thousands of views, and you obviously really enjoy it, and that's what's important as well. And you're growing. So yeah, how do you feel like it's going? You gonna keep it going?
Yeah,
What do you
absolutely.
plan like in, yeah, content wise? Yeah.
I've got a huge video coming out soon. I've been doing a couple of videos in between my bigger videos, not as filler content. It's just because stuff takes so long to edit. I want to get something out that's
Yeah.
not like taking 7 hours of footage together. I've got like an hour of footage. Oh, it's much easier to
Right.
edit. But so I've got a big project coming out with another modder called Dan Amantis, if you might have heard of,
Yeah.
runs the FCN mod,
Hmm.
and me and him are doing a co-op campaign in Napoleon Total. Well, actually, not a co-op campaign; it's a versus campaign in Napoleon Total War,
Hmm.
in the Italian campaign, and that's really really fun video because we're sort of going at each other the whole time, and it gets really tense and really interesting because the Italian campaign, I'm sure you've played the Napoleon Total
Yeah.
War Italian
Yeah.
campaign,
Yeah.
it's really small, and so you've got this very very interesting situation where you're sort of butting heads initially at the beginning, and yet you're the only two factions that are playable. So
Hmm.
it's really, really interesting. I love Napoleonic warfare. You might have noticed there's I mean, I've got a display there, which is
Yeah.
that picture is Napoleon at Eylau, which is one of my favorite battles Napoleon ever fought.
Hmm.
But Napoleonic warfare is definitely my niche in Total War, I would say. And the Italian campaign itself is fascinating. I'm not sure. Are you familiar with a channel called Epic History?
Is it just epic history?
Sorry, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
Epic
Yeah.
History.
No,
Yeah,
I thought. Yeah. Yeah.
so
I have. Yeah.
they've done a fascinating series on the Italian campaign all the way
Hmm.
through, and they just document all the different battles and all the different things that were going on, and that kind of inspired me. Oh, right, maybe I could try and fight it myself and make it a little bit bigger and
Okay.
invite someone
Right.
else on to try and combat me. So that's my next video. It's
Hmm.
taking a long time to edit, but it's like 7-8 hours over 2 days of
Wow.
footage that we were kind of just like head down,
Yeah.
gaming out there. So it's
That's
definitely
awesome.
fun. I got like all the cinematic cameras. I've been recording different battles, so it's going to look really cool. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's
that's my
so
next
cool.
big project. But yeah, I've been doing kind of small like Total War funny battles in between and
Hmm.
kind of like challenges and things like that, and just exploring what works, what doesn't work. So yeah,
Nice.
but no, the success I've been having really was just kind of accidental. Um, it was me kind of trying to test Napoleon Total War to its full extent, and so what I would do is add in via something called the ESF menu, add in like more units into the campaign. So instead of
Yeah.
having 20, I could have 100 per side. And so
Hmm.
the AI would then take that and try and work with it, and obviously would fail drastically.
Hmm.
So it was a couple of funny videos where AI would just rush me with 100 units. I'd have to defend myself. But obviously, I would win because it was just a blob at
Yeah.
the end of
Yeah.
the day. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey so far. I've been fascinated recently by the game Kingdom Come Deliverance. Have you heard of that?
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
two. Sorry, number two. Um, I've just been playing that annoyingly off camera because I don't really want to record it because I kind of want to just experience it, if you know what I
Hmm.
mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I put a video out on it because I accidentally recorded it via the Steam recording software, and I was like, oh, this
Okay.
is I might make a video out of this, and it kind of did okay, and I was enjoying that. So, but no, that's
Hmm.
a game I've been playing in my past in my
Nice.
off time and enjoying that a lot. It's been really, really cool. Um, yeah,
Very cool.
yes, that's
You
where
you
I'm at
think
with YouTube, man.
you think you'll make more videos on KCD2, or you're just sticking to kind of like and
I
enjoying
think
it
it,
without the
yeah, I think
recording aspect of it?
exactly. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is play it, not record it, um, officially, but I'll record it in the background. And if I have like a really cool like series, which I did initially,
Hmm.
like I was kind of blown away by the fact that just how deep my starting progression in the story went.
Hmm.
And I kind of made a video of it because I was just so excited about it rather than actually, it wasn't a review because I hadn't played the game for like more than 5 hours. So
Yeah.
it was more like, oh, this is really cool. You should check this out kind of review. It wasn't really like, oh, this
Right.
is
Right. Right.
a full game review. I
Yeah, I
haven't
get
even
it.
gone
It's
past
like
the
your
first main
first
mission yet.
impressions, like you're enjoying
Yeah.
it, you're just giving some thoughts. Yeah, I totally get it. That's nice.
Yeah.
Well, going just also, I've played KCD1, loved it. I've been playing a
Mm,
bit of KCD2, but I've taken a break recently. So
sure.
yeah, I love that style of game. I mean, RPGs that are very large and they feel like a huge massive world that you could just keep exploring, and you're developing yourself as a character through your interactions, and every
Mm,
interaction kind of like makes an impact that's noticeable. Like all of that is very um very cool and interesting. There aren't a lot of games that do it right and nail it in
no.
the feeling and the
No.
immersion and the interaction very well. I mean, Witcher 3 is probably the best known. You've got
Sure.
Fallout 4, New Vegas was probably huge back in the day, and others like it. But yeah, KCD is very unique. I think,
It
especially
is.
in the time period. I mean, there really aren't any other games
No,
really that in that historical kind of setting of it really nail it in that
no.
way. It's very unique.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating also that they managed to make history interesting without the fantasy aspects,
Yeah.
which I think is which is necessarily bad having fantasy aspects. Like you mentioned Witcher 3, for
Hmm.
example, which is a lot of fantasy and medieval style mixed in.
Yeah.
But the fact they managed to do it without that is actually quite impressive itself.
Mm.
And I know recently they've been, I'm not sure which organization awarded it to them, so I'm just going to say what I think it was. I think it was the BAFTA Awards, gave them the top, where they put KCD2 in the top 10 games of all time,
Oh wow.
alongside other things. So it was a big, huge moment for them. You
Oh,
have
I
to
didn't see that.
correct me on that if I'm wrong in the comments or whatever. I know it was someone significant gave them an award recently,
Right.
which is actually quite incredible if you think about it, only being 2 months old, 3 months old, whatever.
Yeah, that's really cool. I had
Being
no
put next
idea.
to games like mentioned, Witcher 3. I never had
Yeah.
a chance to play any of those games. Actually, interestingly,
Hmm.
I never had a chance to play Skyrim. Never had a chance to play Witcher 3 or Fallout New Vegas. I didn't have a PC or console at the time, so
Hmm.
my interaction with gaming was mostly through YouTube. And
Okay.
I would watch. I think Air of Carthage, or was it someone else? Maybe Air of Carthage, or maybe misquoting here.
Yeah.
Someone made a Skyrim playthrough. I'm not sure if it was Air of Carthage. Someone did.
Okay.
I remember watching that and
Hmm.
interacting with um, that. I don't know if it was Air of Carthage now, but someone did.
Yeah.
So I never really played RPGs before KCD2, and so I kind of picked it up because I liked history.
Hmm.
And I thought
Oh,
this is absolutely fascinating.
that's
So
amazing. That's
yeah.
so exciting. I mean, I grew
Mhm.
up with all sorts of games, but RPGs were a big one of them. I mean,
Right.
I remember playing Morrowind,
Mm.
the third Elder Scrolls, yeah, Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind when I was like 10, and
Right.
and and being amazed by that. It's an incredible genre. I think of all the like gaming genres right now, it's just from sheer revenue, but also like popularity,
Mhm.
just kind of like household name. It's got to be first person shooters, then RPGs, and then strategy games.
Mm.
But RPGs and first persons, I feel like they go neck and neck sometimes. Like Call of
Mm.
Duty, Fortnite, they're kind of like in their own league. But when you
Right.
think of like first persons and like if you put like Sniper Elite or like
Mm.
or like Uncharted, I feel like very very similar kind of like areas, and I don't know,
Mhm.
like Hell at Loose or
Yes,
like
that's a good one.
or Squad, and
Yeah.
and an RPG like Fallout or Outer Worlds or something like that. Like it's very kind of comparable, and and yeah, like you said, they're such interesting worlds. I'm really excited for you. This is the first time you played an. That is insane, man. My
Pretty
mind is
much, yeah.
blown. You need to go
Yeah.
back and play some incredible games.
I will
Um,
try if I have any time.
yeah, when you have the time, when
Yes.
you have the time, add a little like almost like a not a bucket list, but like a list of like games you need to
Sure.
go back and play. And I can send you some
Yeah.
games for that. I mean, Morrowind is insane, and Oblivion, the
Mm.
rest of the Elder Scrolls games, and yeah, I could talk all day about this, man.
Mhm.
Honestly.
And I love
Um,
old games as well. I mean, I started out on the original. I'm sure we'll go into Total War eventually, but I started out on the original Total Wars, like Medieval One.
yeah.
Um, but so yeah, I mean, it's awesome. But no, what was I going to say? It's just it's interesting, I think, because I've totally forgotten what I was going to say. But no, older games like that, like Morrowind and things. I was watching a channel. I think it was To Nerd to Be Human. I think is one of the
Hmm.
channels that do kind of historical RPG / Total War content. I was
Yeah.
watching a couple of his Morrowind videos, and I was thinking, I have no idea where to start. But that's kind of the idea, isn't it? Really, you sort of make your own story.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
yeah, I've been looking
Yeah.
forward to that.
Well,
Maybe one
kind of
day.
definitely you should. Kind of pivoting then towards Total War a little bit, and you were mentioning your first game was Medieval.
Hmm.
When did you play that?
So I mean, I bought Total War Rome and Medieval out of the completely by chance, actually. As I said, I never had a console growing up, and so I wasn't into console games. And
Hmm.
I was going around in the UK because I'm obviously British, and I went into what's called a charity shop. If you're
Yeah.
for American viewers, that's like a Goodwill.
Yeah.
And I went in there and I saw these two games, the Medieval 1 and Rome 1, on the
Mhm.
shelf, and I bought them, and I was probably like maybe 10 at the time or something. I'd say randomly about that age. And I started playing them, and I actually started playing Medieval 1 first because I liked medieval history at the time. And so
Mhm.
I didn't actually know Rome 1 was completely sort of different in 3D camera wise.
Yeah.
So when I played that one, I was expecting a Medieval 1 experience, so it wasn't the case.
Right.
Um, but no, I started playing out that, and I was never very good at Medieval 1. I actually still really haven't ever won a campaign in Medieval 1. I haven't
Okay.
touched
Right.
it since then, really. But I
Mhm.
was always fascinated by the depth of that game. I was sort of a little too young. Maybe I wasn't. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't have enough time to get into that one. But Rome 1, I definitely got into immediately as soon as I started playing that.
Mhm.
Um, and I remember playing it on this like small laptop. And it was like really, really small. I used to play against a couple of friends who had big gaming PCs, and I used to beat them. So that was fun.
Right.
Uh, but Rome 1's fascinating. I think it's probably one of the games of all time. Um, that's why I started. I actually do have a original copy of Rome 1 with the map, which is, by the way, taped. I've got tape on it now because it's been ripped so many times. And
Wow.
the original manual, and then it was a 3-disc version, so you had to install it by 3 discs.
Yeah.
So it's the original copy, and I can't find it. It's here somewhere. But I do have. I kept that one specifically, even though I have it on Steam or whatever. I
Mhm.
kept it because it's kind of like an icon of my, where I started out really.
Yeah, definitely.
So I want to mount the map on the wall one day when I can find it.
Mhm.
But no, do you remember when games used to come with manuals?
Yeah, of
You
course.
must do.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah,
man. I mean, I remember picking up Rome had its map. I think
yeah,
original Shogun had a map as well.
really. Wow,
Um,
I've never even got that
and
at all. Yeah,
um, I remember Medieval 2. There was a version, a big box version that came up with the main European map. And then when you picked up the kingdoms individually,
mm,
the
really.
individual first versions of the expansions came with maps as well.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
awesome. I didn't know that. I know I got. I think medieval copy I have is like a doesn't have a map, but I think it has a manual in it. But no, I didn't know they came with maps. That's cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing Rome 1 for 10 years, and I still love it. I think it's one of the iconic games of all time. I mean, I think it was
yeah, definitely.
2001, 2003 when it came out, and there was nothing like it. I mean, you couldn't even put it close to anything that came out at all at the time.
Yeah,
That was in the
absolutely.
same genre, obviously. Um,
Yeah,
but apparently, it nearly bankrupted CA when it came
yeah,
out, and I think it was like their final like, if it doesn't work, then we're not going to be able to keep the company going. But it did, didn't it? So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I remember reading Shogun was a big one and it did well, and Medieval 1 was like, we're not gonna bankrupt ourselves, but we're doing a lot with this. Like it better work as
yeah,
well. And then Rome 1 was the right. We've overspent. Like we're doing way too much on this, and if
hmm
it doesn't work, then we're screwed.
hmm
But it worked well. It worked really well.
yeah. They had original. I mean, I don't know how necessarily 100% true this is, but I've read into a little bit. Obviously, it's just all just hearsay, I should say. But there
Mhm.
was people saying that Rome 1 was originally supposed to have a medieval multiplayer campaign, um, and things like that they all had planned. And obviously, they had to scrap certain things because they have to keep it in scope a little bit.
Yeah, I can
But
see
I
it. I
mean,
mean, definitely, you can totally see how the three houses in
yes,
Rome can specifically be for
yeah,
3 player
I was,
campaigns.
absolutely. And I was actually looking yesterday, literally yesterday night, chatting with a couple of people. I was like, is this possible to? Is there a way to make Rome 1 multiplayer campaign? And there kind of is. It's kind of interesting. This is one more I found, and basically what it does is it runs your game as a doesn't really work very well, but it runs your game as a client, and then it will, whenever you end your turn, it will send it to somebody else. So
Yeah,
technically, you're not in the same like multiplayer like you would be in Rome 2.
yeah, I've heard of
That's the
that mod.
closest people can get.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh, it's a shame, isn't it? You can't play against each other. I was thinking, what about if you fought a custom battle and then did like a Rome shell command and did whatever result. That would take so long.
Yeah,
I'd think it would
yeah,
just get a little boring. But no.
definitely.
But I've seen a
Yeah.
couple of fun mods for it. I think someone made and obviously I'm talking about outside the big mods, but someone made a Caesar and Gaul mod for
Hmm.
Rome 1, where they sort of made the like Caesar and
Okay.
Gaul campaign for Rome 2, and then put the
Right, right,
put it into
right.
Caesar, put it into Rome 1. But no,
Yeah.
I think Rome. I think did you talk to someone from Roman Imperium Surrectum, if my memory serves me right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I've spoken to a lot of people there,
a lot of
Jorloff
people. Yeah,
and yeah. Obviously, A Howe left
Ahau,
recently,
that's it. Yeah,
so it's um so
yeah.
it's a lot of the others, which I need to get to know really because I haven't really
Mm.
spoken to them in a
They're
while. But
they're
yeah,
bringing back the three faction Rome in
yeah,
RTM Imperium Surrectum, which I'm super excited for. I think that's the way to go.
yeah,
Especially
absolutely.
because the problem with their original Rome was, I think they agreed with this, or they put this on Discord. I think the problem was they um, Rome was too powerful as a single faction, and
Hmm.
it kind of didn't really display the historical characteristics of a real Rome, because Rome was so divided and yet was technically a one faction,
Yeah,
because the Senate and the Emperor and the people were sort of
right.
those three, the executive or the of a dictator,
Yeah,
whatever time, if it was in the Republic or not, because they were so fractured. Power was never concentrated in one place. It was sort of concentrated in multiple places, and those places kind of fought amongst themselves. And so
hmm,
that's the idea of the three factions in the Senate in the original Rome,
hmm,
is to kind of dispel the power a little bit. And so bringing those back, even though it may not be completely 100% historical, is the only way really to try and quell the crazy power of having a 50, province Italy against
yeah,
one province Siberia or whatever. It kind of
yeah,
doesn't really balance very well, and so that's their way of doing it. But I'm
yeah,
super excited to try that out. I think that's going to be really interesting,
yeah. I
especially
think
for new campaigns.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be. I mean, it's gonna be great because there are like two or three versions of it being developed now. So there's the
Mm,
big,
mm,
massive version of RTR Imperium Surrectum, which is still lots of regions, but not the same. So it's like 1,300
yes.
regions or something like that. So it's got that huge scale and scope. You can still focus regional,
Mm,
hundreds of turns of wars and then moving on, like kind of, paradox style, basically gaming a bit. Um, and then there's going to be a smaller one that's like, if I remember correctly, like 800. That's
right.
more consolidated. Less factions, less regions, a lot closer to the original, but still
Right.
much bigger. And kind of a balance between the two types. And then you've got what I think is what you were describing, which is kind of original Rome size and scale. Like I think they're pushing the number of provinces to the original's limit, which is like 240 or something like that.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
they're still filling a lot of these regions with factions that will be from the other versions. Just kind of keeping it to what is the most relevant and maybe the most kind of regionally powerful. Um,
Hmm.
and having that Italy that's a bit more split up and yeah. So
Yeah.
I think yeah, it's going to be very cool. I'd love to try all three of them. I think they're doing amazing work. I mean, they're reworking the
Hmm.
economy. I love the historical research that they do to really
It's
add
incredible.
that
It really is.
detail and yeah. So I think they're an amazing team. I think they're going to do some really good things.
Yeah, they're super dedicated. I know that their characters that they've got. I mean, if you just you don't even have to touch this stuff to play the game, which is actually kind of exciting, because you can just be a casual player,
Yeah,
or you can be a hardcore Rome Total War and want to read everything player.
yeah,
But all the characters have backstories. They all have traits that fit with their character, which is really exciting. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know which version I'll play. I don't know, but I definitely want to try the 3 version Rome. I'm glad they went back to that. I think that was a really good decision to kind of split up the power base a little bit,
yeah.
and make it less of a dominating factor in every campaign,
Hmm.
and allow the other factions to have a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, in Roman history, I think it's a fascinating period for me as well. It's my sort of my antiquity, and Napoleonic warfare is kind of my thing as well.
Hmm.
I read a book called the Rubicon by Tom Holland, which if you haven't read, it's a fascinating book,
I've heard of it. I haven't
and
read it. Yo, no.
you should. I read that, actually listened to it via the audiobook, because I was
Okay.
driving a lot, and I was just listening to that. And he had that kind of has that personable approach, where he kind of doesn't just feed you facts, he kind of tells you a story alongside the facts, which is really, really cool. And he
Mhm.
goes from the sort of beginning of the Republic and how that was formed all the way through different stages of the Republic until Caesar, obviously, and then that's the Emperor
Mhm.
period, which is not what the book was about. So he kind of leaves that, but he focuses
Right.
on Caesar a lot and the rise of Pompey and the rise of Cicero and all
Mhm.
those characters, with some of them which I didn't really have much knowledge of. So it's kind of a really interesting way of learning about the whole thing in one book.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So yeah,
Definitely.
it's kind of spread out a little bit, but it's a really, really cool book and
Yeah,
kind of
it's
helped
come
me understand. Like, oh, this is
it's
this is
come
where
up a
I'm at.
lot. Yeah, it's come up a lot. I've seen a lot of people over the years talk about it, and it's something I definitely need to get into for sure.
Yeah, it's worth it. I think even if it takes a little bit to get into, I think it's worth it. I mean, it doesn't take a little bit to get into. By the way, it's actually really well written, really, really well
Mhm.
written. And I saw a lot of people on TikTok talking about it as their number one historical antiquity book. I was like, okay, I've got to try this
Okay.
stuff out because it's a Roman one,
Right.
and I loved it. It's amazing. I'm currently
Nice.
going through. Can't remember the author's name, so my bad. But it's Carthage Must Be Destroyed, which is an interesting
Okay.
book about the Carthaginian perspective of the Punic Wars,
Mhm.
and how they viewed it, and how Carthage was essentially. The book kind of starts off with Carthage being burnt to the ground and being salted, and then kind of does that thing where it goes back to the beginning and kind of tells the story up to that point.
Right.
Um, and so I'm kind of working my way through that. So I don't know how that compares to the Rubicon, but it's definitely interesting because you always hear the Roman perspective of
Yeah, for
the
sure.
Punic Wars because they won, right? And so you have a lot
Yeah.
more Roman, and Roman
Reference to it, definitely.
historical material. Yeah. So
Mhm.
hear it from the Carthaginian point and how they started as traders and then went on to be this sort of dominating Mediterranean power is quite kind of interesting, and how they were sort of Rome's sort of big rival. I think is really interesting.
Mhm.
It's interesting actually that after they were destroyed, Rome kind of had that period where they didn't have a rival for a while, and that's where most of their problems came from because people were like, oh, now we can fight amongst ourselves.
Yeah, it's a good point. I
Yeah,
mean, it almost like it united them all against the
yeah,
common
true.
sort of enemy as well, and obviously it all had its own issues in their own ways, but it was like a clear goal for them, like an enemy that they could
Mm.
all focus on. After Carthage, who were they fighting really? I don't really
It was mostly themselves. I mean, they faced it was sort of we kind of had two major enemies after that. They kind of fought Carthage and they kind of went into Gaul
yeah.
and Germania, and
Hmm.
that was more of we're not fighting an enemy that's capable like Carthage. We're fighting an
Hmm.
enemy that's in their own territory and
And
is sort of fighting
fragmented
a war.
and yeah.
Yeah, barbaric warfare and then kind of guerrilla warfare, even if you could call it that.
Mm,
And then Parthia, I think, was the biggest one as well. But never
yeah.
really fought a major campaign and won it in Parthia. It was kind of more of a um, we'll fight you here, you beat us back, you beat us here, we'll fight you back sort of thing. And never really got to the point where one would take over the other.
Yeah.
Um, and then sort of the only big battle I think Rome lost, well, not the only one, but the major big battle Rome lost was, I think it was Carrhae with Crassus, who's
Hmm.
actually one of the, I didn't know this is why I would recommend reading Rubicon. I didn't know he was one of the triumvirate, which was Caesar, Pompey, and Crassus.
Oh, okay.
And he led the army into the Parthian wilderness to attack the Parthians. The Parthians like, what are you doing? And basically shot them to death. And I think it's fascinating because a lot of those Crassus lost his son as well in that battle, and then
Right.
he committed sort of honourable way out, if you would say. Was dishonourable, obviously, because he lost a lot of men. But there we go. But he was the mastermind behind Rome's political power, and having him, he was like the cloak and dagger guy, and so he knew all the political masterminding behind the Senate, and he was the guy that people go to for power. If you were in Crassus's book, you were kind of in the money. He was a big
Right.
money lender, and then he kind of took that and saw Caesar and Pompey getting all the glory over Caesar. So he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna have some of that for myself," and basically lost. He didn't have any sort of military strategy
Military
at
experience.
all,
Yeah. Yeah.
but he had all this political strategy. So you think, what were you doing? Why were you marching? I think it was like 4 or 5 legions into the middle of a desert. Parthians shot you to death with arrows. You lost all your cavalry initially. Um, it's just it's just one of those huge major disasters alongside Cannae for Rome. So yes, fascinating book. Totally
Yeah,
recommend it.
I'll definitely check it out for sure. I mean, I've always played, Total War games. I had a little break for 6, 7 years, around when Rome 2 came out. I was like,
Mm.
no, I'm done here. I'm gonna walk away for a bit.
A lot of
As
people
I'm
were, I
sure many
think.
people did, yeah. I think Total War is one of those things. Just as we're like talking now, it's it's a really accessible way of getting into history and playing these
Yes.
characters, these historical kingdoms and societies and cultures and peoples and how they developed, and making you curious about what really happened, like you're doing, you're reading you've read the Rubicon, and Carthage must be destroyed,
It's
and
a weird
just
title, but it's good.
no, but it's good. It's good. I mean, it just
Yeah.
shows you exactly, it's yeah, and history is I think for a lot of people who play Total War, it's like this. It's I want to know more about history. I
Hmm.
want to read and watch about it on YouTube, and yeah, just discover more about what makes me love Total War. Essentially, it all kind of ties together.
Hmm. Absolutely. I never really was a big medieval two player,
Hmm.
which is quite interesting because medieval two is probably the biggest sort of game for a lot of people. I
Yep.
never really played it, which is kind of
Hmm.
weird being a Total War YouTuber and not
Okay.
really playing the sort of the biggest historical Total War technically out there.
Hmm.
But no, my sort of my first major new game in my when it came out and I was actually able to play it was Empire.
Okay.
Um, and being young at the time, I didn't really comprehend why Empire was bad in some ways, but the AI was obviously not great.
Hmm.
Initially starting out and still isn't today. And so I kind of missed the Medieval 2 era because I didn't have a PC, I didn't have a laptop at the time. And so I
Yeah.
missed that coming out. I missed all that excitement and why people thought it was great initially and still do to this day. I think I think it's still got 10,000 players a day on Steam or something ridiculous.
Yeah. Something
And
like
so
that.
it's like it's beating current titles, obviously. But no, Empire was
Yeah.
my sort of new game, or I could buy this sort of thing.
Hmm.
And I loved gunpowder warfare, and Empire is sort of that interesting phase where there isn't really like you got Napoleon afterwards. He's the big character of the 17th, 18th century.
Hmm.
But Empire doesn't really have major characters that are dominating like Napoleon was, and so you've got a sort of
Yeah.
more of a sandboxy feel to
Hmm.
Empire, which I love. I think it's really, really interesting and quite actually. And people hate Empire a lot because of the bad AI, but actually, if you think about it, it's one of the most ambitious games I think for Total War. I mean, you've got Medieval 2. If you think about that, that's just a Europe, and then you've got America's campaign, which is separate technically separate. And you've got the other Teutonic, and you've got the um, Middle East campaign. But with Empire, all that is in one game, and you
Hmm.
think, whoa, wait a minute, I don't have to load up separate discs. No, it's actually just one game.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not particularly great in some ways.
Hmm.
The AI behaves a bit moronic, but it's it's almost like I can kind of forgive them a little bit because I just like the optimism that they were going for.
Hmm.
It was kind of the yes, things were bad about it, but you really pushed the boat out. You really tried something different. I think I don't like the way that they didn't really tell the truth particularly well about the AI. But I think they released loads of like promo videos about how AI was going to be fantastic and how it could do everything. And it
Yeah.
really just was worse than Rome One.
Yeah.
Um, so it was kind of it kind of felt a little bit bad in that way. But I think the whole thing was kind of a demonstration of what Total War could be if it
Yeah.
was had the AI that was better. And I think recently Empires they've released the beta multiplayer campaign
Yeah.
for
That's right.
Empire, which is fascinating. They had that back in 2009,
Hmm.
and then we kind of so they had that technology available then, and we can kind of play it today now. which is really exciting, I think, because Empire is so vast. I haven't ever played a multiplayer Empire campaign, obviously, because it's just come out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And then we kind of go into Napoleon, which was very much centered around one person,
hmm
and was kind of their first sort of character style game. Um, and obviously, I love Napoleon, so I got on really well with that game. What did you think of Napoleon versus Empire? Is that kind of what was your favorite out of the two?
Um, I think for me at the time when they first came out, it was Empire.
Mm,
And exactly for the same kind of reasons that you described. It felt like up until Empire, almost every game before it was CA basically doing Total War in a new way. That made it like a
yeah.
lot more interesting and pushing a
Mm,
lot more what you thought was possible. So you went from Shogun medieval to Rome medieval 2, and it was like everything's 3D. You can have these like beautiful
yeah,
3D battle
exactly.
maps and units and these missions, and it just like it changed the kind of scope of it and what you can do with it. Like obviously the originals had a lot you could do with it as well. Some of which was stripped away, and that's totally fine.
Yes.
But it did other things that were new and interesting and um, very cool as well. And then you had the same kind of iteration from that to Empire, Napoleon, Shogun 2. It
Yeah.
was, the graphics were pushed even further. You went from getting technologies dynamically, turn to turn, marrying reforms, all that, to
Yeah.
what technology are you prioritizing? How does that give you an edge over your enemy? And how do you steal
Yeah.
technology? The intrigue, like the naval
Yeah.
battles. It kept
Yeah. That's
pushing it,
incredible.
and I think you're totally right. I mean, people when they're in the middle of that, I think people are much easier to forgive anything that is off, really, and that
Yeah.
doesn't quite fit or function properly. So I was definitely in your boat. I mean, Empire was an amazing game when it first came out, and
Hmm.
yeah, I basically forgave its AI issues because of how big it was. The you were not strapped for choice in terms of who you want to play and how you want to expand and what technologies, and the engagements felt really pivotal, and even if the AI wasn't that great, there were moments where you were like, oh, this
Hmm.
army is coming out of nowhere, or this like navy is coming out of nowhere, and I need to have this battle, and it's going to mean something
Yeah.
to me. Like those still happened.
Yeah.
It
Absolutely.
it
It
was
happened
just
across.
yeah, and so yeah,
Yeah.
between the two, I liked Napoleon, but for me it was going from the large scale of the
Yeah. I
empire
totally get that.
to let's make it way more specific and take you through a story. And I was just like,
Mm.
this is fun, but I'm not really gonna play it again. This is
It's
I'm
not
playing
quite
through.
sandboxy enough. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like
Yeah.
this is great as a like a spin-off to a series that you're
Right.
watching. That's really cool. It's like watching Obi-Wan after you've watched the Star Wars movies and all that. Like
That's true. Yeah, that's a good
this is cool.
comparison. Yeah.
But I'm not really gonna watch it. I'm not gonna play it again. I'd rather go back to what this is based on. And that's how I
Interesting.
felt about it. Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, and like just to kind of push it a little bit further, that's kind of why I don't particularly personally like games like Troy or Pharaoh or
Right.
um yeah, specifically those games from a historical perspective. I don't think they work as much as well because they're coming from let's do that spin-off version
Yes.
first,
True.
and do it as like the main thing. But it doesn't, for me, it just doesn't quite work as well as what is the pure kind of sandbox experience of it. You can do anything and everything and multiple vectors and different strategies and everything. And yeah, for me, it just yeah doesn't do it the same way. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're leading up to the elephant in the room, which is Troy and Pharaoh, aren't we?
Yeah, yeah, definitely,
But we'll talk
definitely.
about the old games first because they're good.
Yeah, so good. Yeah, exactly.
But Empire was a huge technology game you mentioned. It was the first time where you could actually, use technology to get advantage of your enemies. You kind of were given that in Rome 1, weren't you?
Yeah,
Or Medieval 2, everyone got gunpowder technically at the same time.
yeah.
But I mean, Empire, you could steal technology. I think that's a really really interesting way of doing it. And
Mm.
I always the way I play Empire is I will try and get as much technology early on as I can.
Yeah.
I think there's certain ways to do that as you play different factions. But Napoleon for me was the European campaign kind of let me down a little bit. Knowing about campaigns such as Leipzig campaign and the Russia campaign, both of those in the German one and the Russian one weren't featured. So
Mhm.
you're kind of left with the Italian campaign, which is kind of a little bit of tutorial campaign. You're not really challenged too much.
Yeah.
Egyptian campaign, not really challenged too much. And then you
No.
got the European campaign, which was good, but the AI was really badly scripted.
Mhm.
And so if you played as France, you were kind of battling the Austrians, but they would never invade you very much. You know what I mean? It was
Mhm.
sort of you had to take certain provinces before they were activated by the script. I think that's
Yeah.
kind of the problem modders have been facing. I know that NTW3's campaign, for example, from a little I know of it, so please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but they've given over certain territories to the French on turn one. It's like an automatic secession, and that allows the Austrian AI to then come in and start actually doing stuff rather than being dormant and sitting. So there's a lot of problems with it. Again, as you mentioned, going from a huge global campaign as an empire to a smaller European Napoleonic campaign was a little bit disappointing, I'd say, especially because it was on the same scale as Empire. If they'd sort of zoomed in maybe another point 0.5 and made it a little bit more about, maneuvering in Europe, rather than just like having huge town after huge town, like Strasbourg next to Paris, and that was the only one you could go for. And there's a couple other ones in there as well, but it almost felt like you were given very, very direct pathways
Yeah.
and you couldn't really do much outside of those pathways. There were sort of maybe a couple of options. You can go across this bridge or this valley, and that was the only way to Vienna.
Exactly. It's
um,
like it's like doing Attila and then releasing Age of Charlemagne, but like with half the cities on the map, basically. Like
right,
that's
right,
kind of what
yeah,
it feels like a little bit. Yeah.
hmm yeah, and so I think in the latter years of Napoleon's 1814 campaign, which I didn't really know too much about until recently, he does some incredible maneuvers. This is after he's lost the German campaign at Leipzig. He
Mhm.
does some incredible maneuvers in France, defending Paris against the four factions or three or four enemies coming at him. And
Yeah.
basically, their strategy at the time is it's kind of weird, but it worked for them. If Napoleon's facing you in battle, you retreat. That was literally their strategy. So basically, Napoleon would be going down from Paris to fight the Austrians. They would run away, and then the Russians would be coming from the north. So he'd go back up towards the Russians, and then they'd
Mhm.
run away. And it was kind of weird, but he actually managed to catch them out a lot. I wish they'd featured stuff like that because he used um, his sort of aura of influence as a kind of it's sort of almost I'm not going to say it's supernatural, but
Mhm.
Wellington himself said, if I think I'm maybe misquoting here, but I'm paraphrasing a little bit. He said, when you're facing Napoleon on the battlefield, you've got to account for another 40,000 or 30,000 men, because that's the strength in morale that he would give to him, confidence he would bring to his troops, even after losing in Russia, even after losing Leipzig. He would
Mhm.
still bring that aura of confidence to his troops, something he probably lost at Waterloo, but didn't
Mhm.
have quite the same capability there. But before he was exiled in 14, I think, even 15, I can't remember
I
when he
don't
was
remember
exiled now,
either.
it's bad.
Yeah.
But before then, he had this sort of capability to inspire conscripts, inspire troops that were newly trained to fight as if they were veterans. And I think
Mhm.
that would have been a really cool campaign to feature Napoleon. And it kind of lets down a little bit because France is like 4 or 5 different towns, and that's it.
Yeah.
Um, it's like you can very easily defeat France early on as the Austrians. And so when I was playing that, I had to like tell myself to sit back for 10 turns and then fight them, 'cause otherwise it'd be a boring game. And if that's the case, I think yeah, it's not great. I think they really could have expanded that a little bit more. But
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I totally
And
get what you're saying.
yeah, but like if they were going to do something equal to Empire, that's what it
Yeah.
is. You know, it was missing a lot of the kind of world building and different,
Yeah.
but in and of itself, it's not a bad game, you know.
No, absolutely
You
not.
can play it a couple of times. You can enjoy the narrative of it, the
Yeah.
trying to reenact those maneuvers, the tactical, genius that was Napoleon, both on the campaign and in the battles themselves. The battles were amazing. I mean, compared to Empire, that's
Oh
probably the
yeah, I
biggest
totally
pro
agree.
for me. I mean, Napoleon's battles were much better. Um, but yeah, it was just up until
Yeah,
that
I agree.
point. I think all Total Wars had that grandness. The
Mm.
you being able to do something one campaign and then something completely different in the next that was just as memorable,
Yeah.
and interacting with mechanics in different ways, playing this faction in this way rather than the other, and you're just limiting the amount that you can do, by doing it
Yeah. I mean,
the way that
you
Napoleon
could
did it.
say the same thing, couldn't you? You could say that, oh well, they were trying something new, as like with an Empire, and they never
Yeah,
really went back to that. Focused on one character, but then again, there was never really another character in history that was so. I mean, we call it the Napoleonic Wars for a reason, don't we? And the
yeah,
emperors of France, they were always after him, or always Napoleon the Third, Napoleon the whatever. So like he was a dominating figure for
yeah,
that whole century, really. And so I think it was. I think when they looked at it, I think they probably thought, well, we can't not concentrate on him because otherwise it wouldn't make sense. And so I think they were kind of stuck between the decision. And I'm glad that in a way, even though some of it wasn't good, as we've already talked about,
mhm,
it could have been a little bit better, a little bit more um, focused. I'm glad they went down the route because um, otherwise it would have been too like vague. And I think if they put Napoleon on the same pedestal as the Austrians or the Russians, I think it would have been like, oh, but he was actually, he was a lot more than that. He
yeah,
won he won it, all these different battles.
yeah, yeah,
But he
definitely.
was not a superhuman as we found out in the Russia campaign. But he made some terrible decisions there. But yeah, his Italian campaign, as we talked about right at the beginning, his sort of his peak, I think, was really early on, as he managed to navigate that, and I think he sort of saw himself as a little bit of a Hannibal as well,
Hmm.
interestingly, because he went through the Alps at one point around the
Hmm.
Austrians
Yeah,
and fought them at Marengo and all these different battles. So he kind of had this like sort of superhuman confidence that really displayed itself in the battles that he fought. So
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
Napoleon Total War, fascinating game.
Yeah, it's a very
But
cool game, very interesting. Okay, well, moving further into the future,
yeah,
then,
yes,
uh, how are your thoughts, feelings? Have you played a lot of them? Rome 2, Attila. I mean, Attila and Thrones you can obviously group together a little bit.
yeah, a little bit,
Uh,
yeah.
and the later games after that. How have you felt? Have you played them very much since you've gotten back into Total War and everything?
Yeah, sure. So Rome 2, I mean, let's just start with the huge one they brought out. I mean, there's so much to talk to. We could probably go off into another an
Yeah,
hour of
yeah,
Rome 2
absolutely.
just so I
True.
won't do it too much, but I want to
Yeah.
talk about the newer games a little bit. So, but Rome 2, I was so excited when that came out because it was sort of the game that I've been hoping for my whole sort of childhood life. I
Hmm.
remember, I don't know if you remember the promos they did with Prince of Macedon, Eric Carthage. They brought them all to Rome, all to different places like that, and they did all these huge demos. I mean, it was the time of Rally Point. Do you remember Rally Point? The with
Yeah,
Will
yeah,
and
yeah, of
Craig.
course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was super fun. I really wish they bring that back. I still follow them on like X and other places because I really like, especially Will. I think he was a really funny guy. Um, and so that really community interaction with Rome 2. I genuinely believe that Will and Craig really thought the game was the best thing in the world, and they were kind
Yeah.
of because they seem genuine people,
Yeah.
and so I think they probably thought it was a little bit on the edge here, especially when they were selling the war, Sparta campaign separately, which is a very very weird thing to do. And now they've committed now, thankfully, to not doing that anymore, not
Yeah.
selling factions, which is a
Yeah.
good move. But at the time, it always like we were all kind of. I was a little bit surprised that everybody was,
Yeah.
but you're selling a major faction as a DLC or pre-order bonus or whatever it was, and it was a
Yeah.
mistake, obviously.
Yeah.
But no, Rome 2 was great. Apart from, I think it's great now. I still don't play it because I'm not really. I think for me the collisions in game in the battles are still a little bit too. Um, I
Jarring
don't
a
hit
little
hard
bit.
enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't. I'd rather play Rome One on RTR or. I mean, I played a little bit of the DEI mod. Still found that a little bit too easy.
Hmm.
Uh, although I was interested a little bit more in the maybe it was a bug or something, but I managed to conquer the whole map as one of the Roman factions and like maybe 10 or no, it was a smaller campaign, it's not the whole map, but like
Hmm.
one of the campaigns they had in DEI, which was the Mithridates campaign,
Oh
which
yeah.
I was reading about in the book. And so I was like, oh, well, DEI has this campaign, and yet DEI didn't seem to respond to anything I was doing. So yeah, maybe that was just an AI problem. I don't know. But so
Okay.
DEI, I mean, they've taken that game and they've made it a lot more historical, which I really, really appreciate.
Hmm.
But Rome 2 itself, I mean, where do we even start with that one? I think it was the Siege of Carthage is kind of if you're going to choose one thing, that was the demo they released and the things they told us in that demo and the fact that that game still to this day does not look as good as the Siege of Carthage trailer
Yeah.
is kind of a little bit still, it hurts a
Yeah.
lot of people. And I think a lot of people switched off as soon as that was released and as soon as that was as terrible as it was on launch. And there was the capture points in battles, in like single player battles, oh, single player,
Yeah.
not in sieges, I mean, which was weird. Um, and I think they kind of just forgot what Total War was. I think after the release, it was really weird because they did so well in Shogun 2,
Hmm.
and then they built Rome to as kind of a more linear, more appealing to everybody, a little bit more, and kind of lost the whole player base. If you're trying to appeal to everybody, you kind of lose everybody. It's kind of the trap they fell into there.
Yeah.
Even with the building browser, there not being so many choices. And even you could even go down to the fact that they chose. I mean, I kind of liked it to be honest, but they chose sort of tiled art as the buildings instead of
Right.
actual pictures of the buildings. I kind of
Yep.
like that because I kind of like that style,
Hmm.
but it also felt a little bit like more like I was choosing options rather than I was building buildings,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean. And there were a couple of things that were really great, like the city expanding on the campaign map before your very eyes. That was cool, but it kind of
Yeah.
lost its charm after the 50th time.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
a visual aid to what was going on.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, Rome 2, yeah, I think Attila was always dented by the shadow of Rome 2. Unfortunately, I
Hmm.
never really got into Attila. If I'm totally honest with you,
Okay.
um, never really played it that much because I was sort of so daunted by Rome 2. Only really played Thrones of Britannia because I kind of like the UK style.
Yeah. Of course.
People hate on Thrones of Britannia. I think when it came out, I wasn't there for when it came out, so I don't know how it was. But
Hmm.
now I kind of enjoy it a little bit, just because I live in the UK or used to live in the UK, and so fighting battles where I've been is kind of exciting for the first time.
Yeah. I get that.
Um,
Definitely.
and I love the shield wall kind of gameplay. I think a lot
Hmm.
of people didn't because had less cavalry, so you had less maneuverability. But I kind of liked that a little bit because it was different enough.
Hmm.
And I still think the sieges of Thrones of Britannia are the best in those three games,
Yeah.
and the way those maps are designed are some of the best. And they had to be because it was mostly infantry combat,
Yeah.
and so you had the Norman cavalry. I think those were one of the only cavalry units in the game, or one of the only significant cavalry units, heavy cavalry in the
Hmm.
game. And that was historically accurate. You didn't have cavalry units for a long time until those sort of Middle Ages when you had the Teutonic Knights and the Norman style Holy Roman Empire cavalry,
Yeah.
huge knight. And those were the really powerful sort of medieval formations. But yeah, so having a game, I think they kind of fell into a trap there. It's a little bit with Pharaoh is sort of the same thing. They fell into a trap where um, initially, at least, the infantry combat wasn't as engaging as it was in Attila,
Hmm.
and so, or without the cavalry, I mean. And so
Yeah.
you had a lot of shield wall combat, which kind of I get it. It kind of gets a little bit boring after a while.
Hmm.
But I liked the thing they did with Thrones with the fiefdom thing, where they kind of challenged you a bit more on the micromanaging of a campaign, um, and made you recruit armies out of your own sort of population, but then have to send them back again to
Yep.
work the fields, which is literally what they had to do. And I thought
Yep.
that was a really cool way of doing it, because that's my biggest one of the biggest problems with Total War is the fact your army is your army forever, and you
Hmm.
don't have that um, aspect of your soldiers are real sort of have to go home and work the farms.
Hmm.
You don't have a professional army at the time, and so you raised your fjord, and then you had to send them home again after a certain time. Otherwise, you wouldn't have any food, and they incorporated that into the campaign. I think people don't give them enough credit for that.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
really ingenious way of doing it, and it kind of makes the period a lot more alive for me.
Hmm.
Studying when I was young, I loved Hastings, the Battle of Hastings, and the fact that Harold marched his army all the way up to the north to defeat the Vikings, and then came all the way back down again to fight the Normans,
Hmm.
with a pretty much half and half professional or half and half, local militia army.
Hmm.
And that kind of, they did that really well, I think, in Thrones. They really did. Um, so you can love it or hate it, but I personally love that game. I think it's a hidden gem.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, with so starting with the Rome 2 side of things, yeah, same boat basically. I think a lot of people felt the way you
Yeah.
felt. They did so well with the marketing. Basically,
Yeah,
is
true.
and they did above and beyond marketing, and then the game just didn't deliver. Basically, they've kind of recouped since then, but
Hmm.
I think the core of it is still quite difficult, really, to enjoy. And Attila suffers from very similar kinds of problems. I think Attila, it suffered from the same sort of issues, but it also was elevated by just the different style that playing as the Western Roman Empire or the Eastern Romans and
True.
trying to survive, and or
True.
playing as the hordes invading, trying to destroy. Like, it was a very different kind of Total War experience. So it had a bit more going for it, I think, despite some of the issues, which some of which was resolved to give them credit. And TOB is like exactly for the reasons that you've said. I made a review. I remember like a
Mm.
retrospective last year or the year before, where I was like, there's not a lot I like about TOB, but there are two main things I love. It's the battles, the land battles, the siege battles, the infantry, the like, just looking at it, it's one of the best looking
Yes.
battles in just historical Total War. It plays fluidly. You feel the weight of it. The tactics are very strong, and the layout, the especially the siege battles are um, really really well done. And the other aspect of it is exactly what you described. I love the recruitment system in TOB, and
Mhm.
the every game up until that point was just you click recruit, and either then or within a couple turns you get this full unit, it's ready to go, let's go, and it's there forever basically. But in TOB it was like, hey, recruit, oh, you've only got 13 out of 70 and it's building up and you have to wait like 8 turns. But oh, maybe you want to send them out while they're recruiting because an enemy army is getting
Yeah.
close. You can't afford waiting and letting these villages burn. And it's like there's this imperative all of a sudden to make your army as dynamic as it requires it to be. It was just so
Yeah,
new
I
and
agree.
weird to do it that way. I think it came with other issues. To kind of fit that system, you had to make it, so that you need to go defend that village as it doesn't have a garrison, or you've got one or two armies, and other like one or two armies are going to pop up and start kind of sacking, and you've got a bit of a whack-a-mole going on sometimes, or you've got there were a few other things that came with it that were
Yeah.
a bit annoying, but at the core, I think the intention was very interesting and different.